2.7, page 88 in your book. So if you will turn your books to page 88, this is called the distributive property. And the distributive property, just in its own definition of what it would be, is basically it's multiplying taking a number and multiplying it, it by a sum or a difference. And it's a little vague right here in words, but we'll talk about it here more in just a couple of seconds after we get going here. Okay, terms, like terms, coefficients, constant terms. I want to show those with an example. Okay, I'm going to write an expression. Okay, now I want to talk about what terms are. Terms are what makes up this expression. There are 1, 2, 3 parts of it. Those are the terms. Okay, so the terms are 4x, 8x, and 1. And if they happen to have a negative in front of it, it would be negative 4x, or negative 8, or negative 1. Like terms mean they have the same variables, or they are whole numbers. So the like terms in this problem are 4x and 8x, because they both have x's on them. Coefficients are the numbers with the letters. So the coefficients in this problem would be 4 and 8. The constant terms are the numbers with no letters. So 1 would be the constant term. And we'll talk about why we need to do that as we go through the examples. So check this out. Architecture. A replica of the Parthenon, a temple in ancient Greece, was built in Nashville, Tennessee in 1897. The diagram below shows the approximate dimensions of 2 adjacent rooms inside the replica. You can find the total area in 2 ways, as shown in example 1. So, notice method 1, you could take the area of each room. So you could take 60, here's room 1 right here, and here's room 2. You just do 63 times 44. Then 63 times 98, and that's the area. You can also see that you're multiplying both of them by 63. So you could add up the side lengths first, then multiply by 63. Alright. So example number 2, here's where we have our first key concept. So I am on page 88, the bottom of page 88. This is the key concept about the distributive property. So the word, you can multiply a number and a sum by multiplying the number of each part of the sum and then adding these products. Whew, that's really crazy, isn't it? So let's look at it in algebra. You can take a number and multiply by a product, a sum, multiply a times a sum. So what you do is you are going to distribute, which is called, why it's the distributive property, a inside here by multiplication. You're going to go a times b, a times c. So a times b is ab, plus a times c is ac. The reason why it's plus is because there's a plus sign there. And you do the same thing with subtraction. A times b minus a times c. And I usually put the little arrows to help me. And it works out good with variables as we're getting better in algebra. So let's look at it with numbers though. And you might say, Mrs. Bivens, you've been lying to us. You've been telling us we're supposed to be doing the parentheses first. And that's true. In a problem like this, I would do the parentheses first. But remember, we're learning the distributive property, and sometimes it's better to learn it with numbers, and that way hopefully it'll make sense. If we were doing this with order of operations, we would add first because they're in the parentheses. That would be 7, and then 7 times 6 is 42. But today we're practicing the distributive property, so we're going to distribute this 6 in by using multiplication. So we're going to go 6 times 4 is 24. And we're going to put a plus because there's a plus sign. Then 6 times 3 is 18. And what is 24 plus 18? 42. And remember, that's what we got before. But this is showing me that you understand the distributive property when you put the 24 plus the 18. So I want you to, when it says simplify using the distributive property, that's what I want to see, is that you actually multiplied that and you did that. Let's do a subtraction one. So you're going to go 7 times 8, which is 56, And now this times it's minus 7 times 3, which is 21. All right, so let's check it out. Here's our distributive property. We're taking this times the first term, this times the second term in the parentheses. So negative 5 times x is just negative 5x, and negative 5 times 10 plus 10, we can put the plus, is negative 50. Now these two symbols together like this is not simplified. When we have adding a negative, that's the same as saying negative 5x minus 50. And think about it, if you boomed it, then it would look like this. So simplified, a plus and minus right there needs to be just minus, to be in simplest form. So they did their distributive property, multiplied it out, and then simplified, getting rid of that plus sign. Okay, so this one right here, now this problem has 3 terms inside of it. So we're going to distribute that 3 in there. We're going to go 3 times 1, 3 times 20, 3 times negative 5. So 3 times 1 is 3. We put the minus. 3 times 20 is 60. Then we put the plus. 3 times negative 5 is negative 15. And then we, I don't know if, sometimes in the book it'll just say do this with the distributive property. I don't know if it wants us to simplify it, but let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to change this to addition. Boom, boom. Negative 60 and negative 75 is, or 15 is negative 75 plus 3, so take off 3 more, negative 72. Let's see if they agree with us. They changed it to addition, negative 72. Good deal. Okay, use the distributive property to find the area. So remember, what are we going to multiply? We have 2 rooms here. It'd be 10 times 12 and 10 times 22. So we have a common number, so that's going to go on the outside of the parentheses, and 12 plus 22. So there's our distributive property. 10 times 12 is 120. 10 times 22 is 220. So it would be 340 square feet. There's our distributive property. We're doing the same thing. Actually, they didn't really. They kind of cheated and didn't use the distributive property the right way, I think. So the same thing, the common number is 14 because you take 14 times 3 and 14 times 9. It's 14 times 3 plus 9. 14 times 3 is 60, I don't know, 42. Plus 14 times 9 is 126. And add those together. 168 meters squared, or square meters. Let's see if I did this one right. Yep. Use the distributive property to evaluate or write an equivalent expression. So to evaluate means if it's numbers, you just take it right on out and get the answer. Negative 2 times 5 is negative 10, plus negative 2 times 12 is negative 24, and that comes out to be negative 34. I want to see these. I want to see these numbers so I know you are using the distributive property. There's those numbers. And then the answer is negative 34. So here we got to be a little careful with this negative now. Check this out. We are not only just distributing that 4 by multiplying, we are taking everything times negative 4. So be careful, use those rules we learned. Negative 4 times negative 7 is positive 28, because 2 negatives make a positive. And this, I know it's a minus, but it's really a negative. If you boomed it, that 10 would be a negative 10. So what's negative 4 times negative 10? Positive 40. So then it would come out to be 68. And that's them doing the answer, I believe. Lots of negatives in there. Gets a little confusing, but if you listen to how I talk through it, you should be all right. Is that what I got? Yep. Okay. So this one, because it has a letter in it, we're not going to be able to finish it all the way. We're going to take 2 times W, which is 2W, minus 2 times 8, which is 16. And we cannot do anything any farther because those are not like terms. Remember, there are two terms there, the 2w and the negative 16. They are not alike. All right, negative 8 times z is negative 8z, plus negative 8 times 25. 4 quarters is $1. 8 quarters would be $2. 200, negative 200. And this is not simplified, so I have to write it negative 8z minus 200. And there it is. All right, like terms. Like terms, remember we said that if they have the same variables on them or if they're whole numbers. So since these both have x's on them, 3x and 4x, those together make 7x. We can add those because they have what we call like terms. Okay, and they do it a little different. I just say, hey, they are alike. I look at the x's. So these, let's take a look. The y, this has a y, and this one has a y. So they're alike. So you add the coefficients, the numbers that are with them. Negative 9 plus 7 is negative 2, and you continue the y with it. But the 5z does not, that's not a y, so you can't do anything with it. You leave it just like that. And they do something with it. I don't do it this way, so don't let that confuse you. It's basically the same way. It's just a different, little bit different way of thinking. Now this one, before we can simplify, we have to do out this parenthesis tells us that's the distributive property. So we take 2 times 4 and 2 times x. 2 times 4 is 8, plus 2 times x is 2x. And then the plus x on the outside. And we have 3 terms right here. The like terms are 2x and x. There's one x right there. There's always an unwritten 1 with a letter. So the 8 doesn't have anything to add to, so we leave it alone. 2x plus 1x is 3x. So there is our simplifying that expression. So we do this one, distributive property. Negative 5 times 3x is negative 15x. Negative 5 times negative 6 is positive 30. Plus 7x, we just attaches on. My like terms are 15x and 7x, but remember the 15 is negative, so I subtract those. So it'll be negative 8x plus 30. And let's see how good we did. Oh, we did. I think we got it. Look, negative 8x plus 30. Simplify the expression by combining like terms, so we'll do this a couple more times. 2 times x, 2 times 4, so it'll be 2x plus 8 plus 3x minus 5. So we find our like terms. There's a 2x and a 3x, so we can add those. That makes 5x. And then we have whole numbers, an 8 and a minus 5. So we just do 8 minus 5, which is positive 3. So that's our simplified problem. Let's see as it gets down here if it'll agree with us. There we go. So I'm going to go through, I don't like any subtractions, I'm going to boom, 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 boom. So 5y and negative 3y make 2y, plus 9z, and that's just minus 7, so it's going to be minus 7. They do the distributive property, but we're not going to do that. Wait, I didn't see it. 2y plus, we got it. So this one, the distributive property, this times this, so negative 18x, negative 6, 3 times 6, plus negative 3 is negative 6y, plus 22x. The 18x and the 22x go together, they're opposite signs, so you subtract 4x, and there's no y's, so we have to put minus 6y, not plus a negative, you just put minus. And that's it. Alright, these are kind of tricky, so make sure you show your work on that distributive property. If you're not sure, please ask before. We'll see you later.